Hi, and welcome back to the Soul Shift channel. Today, I was planning to talk about manifestation, since this is such a complex yet wonderful way of living. When I started my journey back in 2022, I thought very little about manifestation. I didn't really know what it was, nor did the word mean anything to me. What I realized was that I had lost my purpose, and with that, some of the joy of life. I felt extremely lost and felt as if every day was a tremendous hill to climb. My focus was to find my way back to my path without really knowing it, since the search for my purpose was more of an isolated activity rather than a path. But with time, I realized that everything was connected. And of course it is. I couldn't really understand what I truly wanted to do. So I started to figure out how I wanted my days to look. What did I want to fill them with? I kind of left the rest for later. I spent a huge amount of time on self-leadership and self-development, trying to become a better version of myself. And through this process, I slowly started to understand what I wanted my next chapter to look like. I did a lot of work trying to become more organized. I listened to books like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. And I really thought that it was because I was lazy and disorganized that I didn't get where I wanted. But the more I worked on more fundamental parts like gratitude, self-love, and conviction, the more this disorganization and inability to get things done disappear. This is perhaps the biggest realization. It is so easy to believe that you have to work on one specific part instead of trusting your path and believing that if you do the groundwork, the rest will follow. I believe the same goes for manifestation. It is not something that I do. It is something that comes from doing the groundwork and truly finding my purpose. During this time, I have noticed time after time that I constantly get what I need, but not necessarily what I want. The timing is never what I expect, and I have felt a lot of frustration. Sometimes it has been hard to keep the faith that everything will work out fine. And it still is. But what I feel more and more strongly is that in one way or another, it actually will work out. There have been so many tough periods over the last year, and I have felt strongly that I simply had to remove certain things from my life in order to make space for my new life, the one I visualized some years ago. And here is the catch. I have never thought of this process as manifestation. That has only become clear to me over the past few months. But I would never have reached this point if I hadn't done the groundwork, working on my mindset through gratitude and generosity, letting go of the panic of losing the farm, and aligning my path with my soul. I strongly believe, and always have, that there is where there is a will, there is a way. Sorry, where there is a will, there is a way. But how deep is that will? That is really the fundamental question. Because just wanting something badly does not necessarily mean that I'm willing to put in the effort to achieve it. And if I'm not willing to do that, then perhaps it's not really what I truly want. I believe this is the most important part of all manifestation. Does it belong to your aligned path? Because whatever we want, we can achieve, but it will not come like a fairy tale. It requires a lot of work on our personal growth. Well, that is all for today. Wish you all a lovely day. Take care.